Right, good morning, everyone. My name's Jamie Kerslake. I'm the Commodore at Ripon Sailing Club and also part of the RYA's Race Officials Academy. We're here today to talk a little bit about self-managed racing and how that might work for our club members. I'm delighted to be joined by Adam McGovern, who's the Regional Development Officer for the North West, and Johnny McGovern, the Lead Pathway Coach at the RYA. So guys, we're talking about the self-managed racing aspect, what club members could do in their groups of six on the water. So Adam, the key points of self-managed racing from your point of view, what do you think they are?
I think so. The key points is whatever you're doing. I think it's sticking to that message we've been putting out about that considered and conservative approach. So not kind of going out in conditions that you wouldn't usually that usually push your limits a bit further. So go out in conditions that are suitable for you, and kind of look after each other and manage your own activities. So sort of in your social bubbles and your social little groups, just watch out for each other. Take a sensible approach to your sailing. And just get out there and sort of have some fun, not in necessarily a formal capacity of racing, but there's lots we can do informally that's just as competitive and just as fun.
Excellent. And have you got any good examples around the region, Adam, that you've seen working?
Well, actually, when we were younger, me and Johnny and a number of the guys up at the club, we used to get Wednesday afternoons off. I believe college called it enrichment. If that's right, Johnny. But they used to give us Wednesday afternoon off to do a bit of sport. So we used to, at the time, we were really fortunate that the local water sports centre basically let us have free reign of their kit. But what it meant was we could take out any range of boats and do a bit of racing. So we quite often went out in lasers, the big either 2, 3, 4. I think up to 6 of us actually. And would do anything the main one was just rabbit runs. So getting one of the guys to start on port, setting off from a certain mark downwind, would all dive behind them on starboard. And it's in effect a gate start, but self-managed. And we'd race a simple course, finishing up back at the leeward mark. And then the last boat from that race would be the rabbit doing the gate start in the next race. So that was quite a cool one. I think another one was when we had different abilities out on the water, was we'd set a course, a basic start line or a rabbit run start or whatever, race around the course, and then where you finish, say I finished 20 seconds behind Johnny, which was usually the case, at least that, I'd then start the next race 20 seconds ahead, so it'd be almost a self-managed pursuit race. And then based on where we finished in that one, if I managed to stay within 10 seconds of him, my lead had got halved for the next race. So we kind of did a mixture of rabbit runs and self-managed sort of pursuit races, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So Johnny, from your point of view, what does self-managed racing look like to you?
Yeah, I think Adam covered it really well, and it's essentially not being reliant on an outside source for your racing. And I think, as a coach in the RYA, a bit of a weakness is that you see sailors needing to have a coach to be able to go sailing. And I think that's something that I'm very passionate about, is that, you want to get people to, encourage them to go sailing for fun and do it in a little small group of friends. And actually, one of the things Adam didn't really touch on there was like, you can do it in lots of ways. You can do the traditional racing, but you can also do it in little challenges that you set for yourselves, and I think that was one of the fun memories that I had. We used to, even when we were really small, we used to hold our optimists on the side and push them off from the side of the harbour wall at Hollingworth Lake, and it was a game to see who would wait the longest before they'd swim after their boat, and it was like little things like that. There was a bit of like, we called it sea chicken, which was a bit weird on a lake, but it was just little challenges. Make sure that you're not reliant on needing a full race committee or a coach to be there all the time, and you can still gain a huge amount from that type of recreational style sailing, and learn a lot from that.
Oh, great! And you're the RYA's lead pathway coach. So you're responsible for developing some of these sailors. Have you got any sort of good exercises you could recommend sailors do, maybe in their groups of 6? What's maybe your top 3 that they could take on?
Yeah, I think if anything, it's just trying to make the exercises specific to some of the areas that you want to get better at. So, you could set yourself up for a more of a downwind focus with your group, and your most waters or most lakes will have some sort of reference points or fixed marks that they leave on the water. And it's essentially utilizing your environment to create quite a specific focus for your group. So I think one of the things when we're coaching, we always try and get sailors to essentially sort of profile your skills and work out what will make the biggest difference to helping your racing. And I think that's, at every level, that's really valuable. So if you can, if your little group of friends want to work on downwind as a technique or a topic, set your little challenge or your race up to really focus on that. And maybe it's just a single downwind race, a drag race downwind that you try and do. But I think be really clear about, to make it more productive, you just be really clear about what the areas that you want to get better at as a group of sailors, and try and tailor that into your exercises or your games that you do.
Okay, thank you. Adam, just to finally, this is something we experiencing ourselves at Ripon Sailing Club. What would your top tips for sailors to be safe when they're going out in these groups? Obviously, we're going out potentially without safety cover in some cases. What's your top tips for sailors sort of to take on board before they set sail to undertake this kind of exercise?
Yeah, so again, it will largely depend on the size of the water and where you're looking to go. But the very, very least, with a lot of buddy sailing going on at the minute, I'd always take a tow rope out with me. So if something breaks, I can throw the long tow rope to the other boat who could potentially help tow me in, and some way of paddling back in. So it's basically you don't always have that safety boat there when you're doing recreational and sort of your own sailing. So yeah, paddle and a tow rope. If you're going out sort of in a sort of larger stretch of water and stuff and planning to spend a bit of time out there, it might even be appropriate to think of a little anchor or something so you can anchor up if you're going on a bit of a cruise or something like that. But no, at the very least, I'd recommend tow rope and paddle. And then depending on the strength of wind and your ability, really worth considering a masthead float. I know there's times when I've took one out when I've been with someone that's relatively new to sailing and a bit nervous, just as a bit of a backup. I hope I don't capsize. I always hope that. It's not always the case. So, if you're ever nervous, get a masthead float on there because that just helps prevent any inversions. So if you do capsize, just makes it a bit easier to get your boat back up right.
Excellent. That's really valuable advice. Thank you. Right, guys, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. I'm now delighted to say I'm being joined by Keith Davies from the Royal Western Yacht Club down in Plymouth. So, Keith, what sort of activities been going on down in Plymouth?
Well, since the release of boats to be able to go recreational sailing, there's been a fair few boats who've been going out for jollies around the Sound and a little bit further, just sort of out to the Eddystone and back, still restricted to go to ports further afield. But there's been a definite demand for structured sailing, I think is the way to term it. There's a lot of people who want to go racing, appreciate they can't go racing, but have got fed up with just bumbling around on their boats in and around doing some working from home, so to speak. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're starting to see a demand from members now to go racing again. So what do you think that racing could possibly look like?
Well, we've actually got our first event this weekend, which is being deemed a social distance event. So it's going to be based on single-handers, family crews, and two-handed crews, which are basically within social distancing guidelines for volumes of crews on boats. We've got everything from small 20-foot sports boats through to 50-foot Beneteaus. So not just the racing boats, but we've made sure that it's going to cater for all sailors, whether they're a cruising yachtsman or a flat-out racer. They can participate, and we're going to put some results together, and we've got some Plymouth gin donated for whoever I choose is the best boat on the day.
Sounds fantastic. I might have to have a journey down. So you mentioned the buzzword of social distancing there, Keith. What sort of consideration have you given to obviously the numbers on board of these boats?
Well, we've because the RWA directive and the governance that we've been provided with to date states that as a club we cannot run racing until phase 3, which is potentially the 4th of July. At the moment, in sort of where we are at June, it's sort of competitor driven race management or organised sailing. I've taken the role on that as a Plymouth competitor. I'm also a regional race officer. So we've sort of kept ourselves detached from the club so that we can still run an organised event, but with adhering to the guidance that we've been provided. Crew numbers, we've had a few requests from various local yachtsmen, and we've sort of took a step back from that, saying it's your discretion. We're not going to police it, but if you are found to be 5 of you on a 30-foot boat, for example, we will be putting it on our WhatsApp group that we feel that people were taking the mick out of the guidelines. And I think peer pressure is immensely strong, and I feel that it only takes one person to break the rules, and I think the competitors and fellow yachtsmen will certainly come down hard on them, because it only takes a few people to upset the apple cart, and we'll all be taking a step back, and we want to be taking a step forward.
Absolutely, that sounds great. I mean, what's the response from your competitors been like to that kind of message?
Phenomenally warming, actually. They've sort of taken it on board. They've asked for some guidance, sort of what I've spoken with Jack Fennick at the RWA a few times in the build up to this, sort of talking about where we stand on advice and things. And a lot of people are heeding the advice of its skipper's decision. Primarily, they're going to be family orientated crews, husbands, wives, couple of kids, single handers, and we've got a couple of two-handed teams, but on 35-foot boats, 2 up, you can comfortably socially distance and on board those boats.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. So, are you looking at more options to develop this racing offer then as time moves forward?
Our current course for this weekend is out and around a meteorological buoy and back into the Sound, which is going to give them about 3 hours of sailing. We're planning potentially for something on Wednesday evenings as sort of competitor driven. I know that the other yacht clubs and ourselves at the Royal Western, we're itching to get back to putting a committee boat in and having some contested starts, but we're trying to encourage. At the moment, it's more of a time trial event. So if a competitor wants to start at 10 o'clock, but so do 3 of them, they all want to dial up. Three of them will be okay. If it's 12 of them, then they might need to be sort of told to sort of behave a little bit. I think there's definitely a demand. The longer distance, because people can go off, sort of, as we said, a meteorological buoy. It's about 5 miles offshore, off the breakwater. So it gives them a good 2.5, 3 hour sail. And we're getting a spectrum from everything from a small sports boat through to large catamarans from multi-marine just up the river from Plymouth Sound. So
yeah, it sounds like you're giving it a lot of thought. I mean, when you've been drawing up these plans, Keith, what sort of risks have you had to sort of take into consideration?
Well, the main sort of other than volume of crew, the main risk has been been volume of boats in a congesting an area, sort of the whole congested start line, mostly because it's going to look pretty bad from a PR exercise. If you see 20 boats all in a line from the shore, it's going to raise questions. But even though the beam on a race boat or any boat is over 3 meters, So if you're on the windward rail of one boat and the windward rail of the other, you are perfectly distant from competitors around you. But it's going to look bad. We've avoided all dinghy sailing conversation because the area of water that we've got can be perfect, can be really flat, really sheltered, but other times when it's blowing hard from the southwest, it can be pretty rough. So we're avoiding dinghy sailing until phase 3, when we're allowed the use of club assets, and when we can use safety boats and committee boats, we'll certainly resume dinghy sailing in a form, probably pursuit racing or something similar. We're back on the yachts. We're encouraging the use of monitoring a specific VHF channel amongst the competitors, or participants, should I say, and mainly so that they keep a watch out for each other. Less racing rules, more coal regs orientated, and to keep an eye on the shipping movements. At the end of the day, they're out for a leisurely sail, but it's structured. So they've got a directive to their afternoon or all-day yacht, but without sort of encourage them not to take the mick. This weekend, it was originally going to be Saturday, but because we've got 30 knots plus forecast, we've just moved it to the Sunday. So we're being pretty fluid with our operations at the moment.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got it in hand down there. I hope it goes well on Sunday for you. I'll be interested to see the outcome. Really appreciate your time tonight, Keith. Thank you very much. Don't forget, there's a ton of extra content on the RAA's YouTube channel from the Sail From Home podcasts, and we'll just continue this safe, conservative, considerate return to boating. Thank you.